Welcome everybody. Doug Anderson, Food and Beverage Manager here at Seven Summits Lodge. Today we're going to be doing a video regarding wine tasting, how you observe wine, how you taste wine, how you smell wine, stuff like that. I know you probably have seen out at restaurants or wine tastings people staring up at the glass, smelling the glass, swirling the glass. So today we're going to talk a little bit about why people do that. I know we have a fairly robust wine club here, and when I started here as a bartender, one of my biggest shortcomings, I guess, as a bartender was wine. I didn't have a lot of wine knowledge coming from working at an airport bar. I knew that Cabernet was red and Chardonnay was white, and that's about it. You know, we had one variety of each, and I didn't know a lot about it. So when I started bartending here, that was one of the things that I kind of really wanted to dive into and learn a little bit more about, so that I was somewhat knowledgeable when I was talking to people about wine. Obviously, wine is a big world. There's lots to know, and I'm nowhere near an expert. But at least I feel comfortable at a table now talking to people about wine or recommending a certain wine to go with whatever they're having for dinner. So tonight we're going to be drinking the Matchbook Cabernet. It's a local Cabernet from Dunnigan Hills here. Been pretty popular. We've had it as a wine special in the restaurant when we were open, and we sold a couple bottles this week during restaurant week to pair with either the pot roast or the chicken, which we had this week. So today we're going to be tasting that and talking a little bit about, you know, what you do to feel a little bit more comfortable at a table. If you're out at a restaurant and somebody orders a bottle of wine, and you will be able to kind of match wits with them a little bit and not feel so uncomfortable when it comes to wine. So first, we're going to pour the wine. Christopher did a nice video that's on our page regarding proper wine presentation at a table. So if you'd like to go back and look at that, I'm not going to cover any of that today. Today we're just going to go over basically, you know, the wine's in front of you. What do you do then? So in general, you're going to want to hold the wine up to the light so that you can see, you know, the color and the viscosity of the wine, what they call the wine's legs. So how it holds on to the glass. You know, you'll have Cabernet, which is a little bit darker of a wine in general. You have Pinot Noir, which is going to be quite a bit more translucent or a thinner wine. You'll be able to see through it a little bit more. But generally, the look of the wine isn't quite as important unless you're doing a blind tasting. Most of the information that you're going to gather from looking through the wine and just the visual appearance of the wine is going to be on the bottle already. So that includes, you know, the varietal of grape, the alcohol by volume, what vintage it is, what year it was made. So you're going to find all of that on the bottle. But if you're doing a blind tasting, it's definitely important to try to pick up some of those clues from the visual look of the wine. So the second thing you're going to do is smell it. You're going to put your nose right in there. And generally you want to keep your mouth open while you're smelling the wine so that, you know, the scent can get through your mouth as well. A lot of the things you're going to pick up from smelling the wine, it's important to not just smell it through your nose, but have your mouth open so that you can get everything out of it. So we're going to smell the wine. Generally, you're going to want to swirl the wine a little bit. You'll see people swirling the wine a lot, and I've gotten questions at wine tastings and in the restaurant, why are you swirling the wine? Well, you want to get oxygen into the wine to open up the wine. You know, it'll bring out more of the aromas and the complexities of the wine. So you're going to want to swirl it a little bit, give it another smell with your mouth open. And what do you smell? Generally, you'll be able to pick out, you know, the fruits, the herbs, whether, you know, what it was aged in, maybe, you know, a strong oak smell, or baking spices, tobacco, vanilla, cedar, whatever it may be, leather. All that is going to be picked up through the nose. So you know, give it a few smells there. You don't have to get too crazy with it, but, you know, smell it a little bit before you taste it. And then when you taste it, it's important that if it's the first glass of wine for you for the day, that you kind of take a long, bigger taste to kind of wash over your palate. That alcohol in the wine is going to kind of, you know, shock your taste buds a little bit. So you don't want to gauge everything on the first taste of the wine. So you want to get the wine all in your mouth and kind of coated. You'll see people, you know, kind of slurp the wine in or create bubbles with their mouth open to kind of make it go all over their palate. that's really not 100% necessary, but you know, unless you're a high-level wine drinker or wine analyst or sommelier, as it were, your normal wine connoisseur doesn't necessarily need to do that. So when we taste it, like I said, you're going to taste for the texture, you know, the length of the wine. Does it have a short finish, which means that the taste goes away very quickly? Does it have a long finish to where it kind of lingers on your tongue there? And you know, as you know, different parts of your tongue pick up different parts, tastes of wine, whether it's sweet, whether it's sour, whether it has high acidity. So that's kind of what you're tasting for in the wine. And everybody has a different palate, you know. So what tastes good to me might not taste good to somebody else. You know, when you go to a restaurant and you order a bottle of wine, as you'll see in Christopher's wine presentation video, they will pour a taster for everybody to make sure that everybody, you know, enjoys the wine before they commit to the whole bottle. So for this Cabernet here, I would say, you know, I've only tasted once today. I've tasted it before, obviously, but it's a really good wine, especially for the price point. This Matchbook Cabernet has a lot of blackberry and currant notes, a little bit of chocolate hint to it. But you know, as you sit there and get oxygen into the wine and let it open up more, different flavors will come out of the wine. That's why, especially, you know, if you order a decent bottle of wine at a restaurant, you're going to want to get it decanted so that it can get more oxygen into the wine and let those flavors come out. For instance, at wine tastings, when we do wine tastings, for certain on the reds, we like to open the bottles up, you know, somewhere around an hour or so before members are going to be tasting the wine, so that it had a chance to open up already. And then, you know, that's the idea of a wine tasting and why you're doing, you know, even just these steps at a restaurant, even when you get a bottle of wine, is that, you know, you want to be able to compare wines. That's what the fun part about wine tasting is, you know, we'll have 6 different wines and you'll be able to compare. You'll see members say, can I get a little bit more of that Cabernet so I can judge the 2 of them together? And that's the whole purpose of it, to kind of find different parts of wines that you like, being able to analyze wine a little bit better. And we certainly hope to start our wine program back up again real soon. I look forward to talking to members about wine. I never would have believed when I started here, like I mentioned, I didn't know anything about wine. And now I'm somewhat comfortable to be able to lead my own wine tasting and present it to members, though we do have a lot of members that are much more knowledgeable than me when it comes to wine. It's just a fun environment to get around people and talk about wine and see what everybody else thinks about something. You know, what I pick up out of wine might be different from what somebody else picks up about wine. So as I mentioned, you know, really the 4 things that you do for wine is the look, the smell, the taste, and then, you know, analyzing it in your mind. You know, with the